Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Top Bins with Twins. We are here to discuss with you all match week 30. We've got a lot going on at the moment coming out of an international break, but Paul, how are you doing?
I'm good. We had a fun little time covering the USMNT, and now we're back to FPL-centric things, and I think it's going to be a fun little run-in of the last 9 game weeks of the season, right?
Yep.
Am I tripping?
Good math.
9, yeah.
Good math there.
Math.
Yes,
math, but
our strong suit.
Yeah, that's what Luke is our numbers guy.
That is true. Maybe my strong suit.
Yeah, I think it's more so Luke's strong suit. But I can say that I am for sure excited for the final run-in and hoping to make a push into possibly the top 100K and pushing for the title in our mini league.
For expectations, where are you at currently with your overall rank?
I'm sitting a little under 600K right now.
Oh, really? I'm not that far behind you at all.
Yeah. So we
hear those footsteps, pitter pattering.
Tightened up. Yeah, over the last couple of weeks, we've really Luke's covered some ground. So happy for him, but also I need to get a little focused and get it together. So that's what we're here to do. We're going to help you all do the same thing. So
we are, and we all know the feeling of wanting to increase your overall rank, wanting to catch those mini league rivals. So hopefully this podcast will help you do that, right, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What do you think is the best topic to dive into? I think the best thing is to do a broad overview and just talk about 30, as we kind of talked about before the pod. Do you want to tell everyone which doubles are coming up, Paul? Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay, go for it.
So according to Ben Krellin, our schedule god, 34, we're going to have the next doubles will be in match week 34, where Arsenal, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Everton, Wolves, Crystal Palace, and Sheffield will all double. And then in 36, we have Chelsea and Tottenham, who will double, which Tottenham actually have a blank in 34 too. So that makes it a little tricky if you're carrying Spurs assets into 34. And then we have in 37, we have, Chelsea, Tottenham, City, Brighton, United, and Newcastle that will be doubling. So there's a lot of, I think, juicy doubles within that run of from basically 34 to 37, where I think there's a lot of ground to be made up. If you're behind people, there's a lot of ground to basically distance yourself if you're already ahead. So it's an exciting time as FPL manager, but what really comes down to is we have to be very precise with how we plan for this,
We do, and another factor that we need to play into all this is, especially when we're getting around 36, 37, there are going to be some teams going on the beach. There are going to be some teams who are competing for the title, and there are going to be some teams competing to stay out of the relegation zone, trying to either work out of it or stay out of that bottom 3. With that in mind, 37 and 36, 38 as well gets really dicey because it's hard to predict who's going to be starting, how serious teams are going to be taking it.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, do you think that 34 or 37 is the better double week to attack?
For me, I think 34 feels more like a slightly better option. And I think it kind of depends on what chips you have left, what your team layout is currently. But 34 seems like, we have Arsenal, Liverpool, Palace. There's some good doubles in there. Like Arsenal playing Wolves and Chelsea, that's a good double for them. Liverpool playing Fulham and Everton, that's a really good double. So it really depends on the chip usage you have at your disposal. But I think one of the blueprints is gonna be 3 Arsenal, 3 Liverpool, probably.
I think Bournemouth will be popular as well.
Bournemouth, and I'd say you'll see a lot of Eze out there too if hopefully he's healthy at this time.
Elise is back in training as well. And I know that you've been burnt once from an injury that he picked up during the season.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something you go back to because he was, when playing, returning double-digit hauls almost consistently week in, week out.
He was a big boost to my team in those weeks before he got hurt. And then him going out really was damaging to my team. But
it was, but you bounced back.
Yeah, especially under Glasner, Crystal Palace are looking better. And if you throw Eze and Elise back into that mix, they're going to be pretty good. They play West Ham and Newcastle, so I don't think those are bad fixtures for them, really.
In 34, I personally would prefer to bench boost instead of bench boosting in 37 because it's going to be really difficult to do so. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I'm not frustrated, but not understanding the template and way that a lot of managers are approaching this. A lot of them are wildcarding now or in 31, and some are planning to bench boost in 37. My frustration with that is if you're wildcarding now, it's so far off in the future. There's so many matches that are going to be tightly condensed in that time frame that I think teams are going to, our ideal team for 37 as of now is going to look very different than it is 36 going into 37.
For sure.
Or even wildcard in 35, and that gets you ready for bench boost in 37, which I guess I'll go ahead and just say what I'm kind of thinking at the moment. I have two different paths that I'm thinking of at the moment. I'm thinking either wildcard 33, that sets me up for a bench boost in 34, where I have 15 doublers right before then. I know who's starting, I know who's in form, I know who's fit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that sets me up for a free hit in 37 for that double. My concern with that route, though, is that if I'm wildcarding 33, bench boost in 34, I'm going to be struggling in 35 because that's probably not going to include Chelsea and Spurs players.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the Spurs and Chelsea, that doubles in 36, not 35.
It could end up being in 35, though.
Oh, so
it could. Yeah, it could go either way. It's not confirmed yet. So in my mind, that's kind of what's keeping me from fully going through with that path.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But by waiting till 33, you're also going to have a lot more information than people wildcarding in 31.
I will. So. And I would not plan on pushing my wildcard anytime before 33. The second route that I would go down is free hit in 34. Get a full team of 11 doublers, maybe even one or two single game week players. 35 wildcard. And then I can bring in all the Chelsea and Spurs players I want while building for the doubles in 37. And then I would bench boost in 37.
Yeah.
But as I just said earlier, I'm worried about which players are going to be playing for 37. And that makes that bench boost really precarious, especially with me wildcarding in 35.
Yeah.
Because that's 2 weeks ahead. So
you also... Yeah, I mean, and then there also raises the question of where does the free hit chip fall? Where, like, I think there's a lot of stuff that just needs to be a little more clear, but I do like your original plan, though, of 33 wildcard and bench boost 34.
And then free hit 37. That, if nothing else, I do believe a free hit in 37 would get me more points than the people who played it in 29, just with that being an all-time average for the week. All-time low average for the week. That does set me up nicely to say that free hit, gives me somewhat of a differential point gain, I guess. I don't know. Depends on what everyone else gets for the week, too. It
just all depends,
It does. There's so many different ways to look at it. For 34, so you said you think Liverpool, Liverpool, Arsenal, and you even said some Crystal Palace assets. Would there be any differential shouts in there that you'd be interested in? Any teams that are catching your eye that could be good teams for managers to target that they might not be thinking about?
For me, I mean, you have Wolves double. They play Arsenal and Bournemouth. But to me, I mean, the only asset I would consider there is Al Nouri because, I mean, they're attacking. If you look at the stats over the last 3 game weeks from 27 to 29, Wolves are second in the Premier League in XG. With, I mean, like, you just don't want to invest in attacking assets when the team obviously is not producing goals, which obviously that can change by the time we roll into match week 34. But to me, at this point in time, I would not touch Wolves attackers. Sheffield, I do not want a Sheffield player on my team. But another thing to consider too is that in that week, in match week 34, United play Sheffield at home, I believe. So that could be a sneaky shout of throwing like maybe Hoyland, maybe Garnacho, possibly Rashford if he comes back from international break in good form. I think there could be some sneaky, because in any chance to get an attacking player playing Sheffield, I would consider it.
Yeah, Garnacho's a really good shout for that. I think Manchester United assets are going to become a bit more popular as we go into the last phase of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They'll kind of get their time in the light. I do think, though...
And they do play, I will say, United, so they have a run where they play Bournemouth in 33, Sheffield in 34, and then Burnley in 35, and Palace in 36. So, I mean, they have that's a good stretch of 4 matches right there.
Mm-hmm. But their double is not good in 37. They have Arsenal at home and then Newcastle at home. That's pretty difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. But just an idea, because, I mean, I think a lot of the time, we get really focused on double game weeks and we forget to look at the whole picture of the week. And I think United assets during 34 are not a horrible idea.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout there, Paul. 34 is going to be a make or break week, I think, for a lot of managers.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the number of doubles and how everyone's building to that now. I really think this is one of the biggest times in the season where everyone is proactively saying, okay, it's 30. I want to get ready for 34 or 35 or 37. How am I going to do that? And I really think that long-term planning is really, really important at this point in the season. But I also think another point that we need to look at here, right, is that 35, whenever Tottenham does double, it's going to be kind of difficult. Tottenham they could possibly play Arsenal and Chelsea in 35. Say that happens, right? Let's go in the situation that Tottenham play Arsenal and Chelsea in 35. In 36, they have Liverpool for a single game week.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would double again in 37 with Burnley and Man City. So basically 3 back-to-back weeks, they're playing Arsenal, Liverpool, and City.
Yeah, and then they finish the season with Sheffield. So, I mean, that's difficult.
It is. Within any of this, are there any triple captaincy shouts that you see that you feel like would be something that interests you by chance?
I will say that I think City playing Fulham and Tottenham in 37 feels kind of sneakily like it could be a big time to captain Holland.
Depends what they're pushing for at that point.
It really depends. That's a lot of question marks around leaving it that late. But if I had to pick another one, it would probably be Saka against in 34 against Wolves and Chelsea.
Yeah, I think that's
Saka
good.
or possibly Havertz. If Havertz is continuing good form, I mean, I understand it's a huge risk.
That is a little risky.
It's a little risky, and honestly, it probably won't have the ability to use, a triple captain in 34, because I'll probably be bench boosting in 34 most likely. But I mean, if that's the last good chance I really have of using my triple captain, because I've held it for a long time, that one, Saka in 34, does make a lot of sense to me. Or Havertz,
What would you say if Salah bags a brace the week before in 33 against Crystal Palace at home? How would you feel about triple captaining Salah for 34?
Salah is another one too. 34, that's a good point. Like Salah in 34 against Fulham and Everton.
Both of those are away. One of those is a derby. A little extra juice in that one. So there's something, excuse me, that's something to keep in mind. But I also do think that Liverpool are going to be pushing for a title. And Arsenal have a big advantage on goal differential. I think they could be trying to make that up, especially against someone like Fulham.
Yeah.
Which Fulham have been better.
Fulham have been better, but the way they set up, I think that Liverpool could absolutely smash them,
They could. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, how about we take a little break here, and then we come right back.
Okay, sounds good.
Right.
We'll be back, guys. All right, everybody, welcome Welcome back to Top Ends with Twins. We're happy to have you here, and we're going to start off this little segment with a fun little question for Luke.
Oh, trivia. I love that.
It's not a trivia question.
I always do so good with trivia.
It's a personal opinion question for you.
Oh, wow. We're getting personal here.
Yeah. If you had to pick one TV show to watch for the rest of your life, what would you choose? Just so people can get to know us a little bit, you know?
That's tough because, in my opinion, after watching a show once, I have to be able to dig a lot deeper for me to want to watch it again.
Yes.
And kind of peel back the layers like an onion. I think one of the best shows to do that would probably be Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That's what's coming to mind first. But I'm sure there's lots of really good candidates out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I also had The Office come to mind, the American version. But it feels a little. I think I would get tired of it after a while, right? Because I've seen it so many times already.
Yeah.
Probably Game of Thrones is what I would go with. The original series.
Yeah. That's a great pick.
What about you? What would you pick? And don't give me this BS answer. You haven't thought about it because you posed the question.
I really don't know. No. From just a pure enjoyment standpoint, it may be Arrested Development. Like I guess I just get so much joy out of watching that show, and it's so funny every time I watch it.
Just be careful. There's a loose seal around.
No, he's all right.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, that's a great one. But for more of a drama, I don't know. Probably Game of Thrones too, because I think the rewatchability of that, even if like there's all the discourse around it toward the later seasons, it's still just like one of the best TV shows from a cinematic standpoint, you know?
Yeah, holistically, excuse me, I really think that it is, right?
And just like the story in general is so great. And
it is. And it's one of those shows that you can enjoy the plot and what's happening, but it's also aesthetically shot really well.
Yeah.
The cinematography is great. The score that they use to kind of build the world is really great as well.
Yeah.
There's lots of different angles you can take it to look at, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's, this Jon Snow is just one of the best characters in TV, in my opinion. Just for like his whole story and like where it started to where it ended. He's just a great character. But that also raises the question, Luke, of like, who would be your Jon Snow figure of this week for FPL? Who would be your captain, or who would be on your Night's Watch if you had to pick?
Well, if I had to nominate what is the title for? Is it Lord Commander, the Night's Watch?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what it is. My Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. I feel like that's wrong, but we're going to go with that.
Yeah, we'll just
keep rolling. I would have to pick Heung-min Son.
Yeah.
I think he picks himself this week with how poor Luton have been. They have multiple defenders out that aren't going to be able to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently they Rob Edwards was in training and he got hurt in training.
Right.
So they're poor Luton. They're really struggling right now, which really sucks.
They are. And this goes to show the disparity in money across the league. Teams like Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, all of them have the available funds, even Newcastle. They have the available funds to be able to have solid Premier League level backups.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere at Luton, they are struggling to fill that certain quality, but also just fill in the starting 11 in some cases in certain positions.
They for sure are being plagued with an injury bug,
which
right
they
now.
can pull people up from their academy. Of course, that's they will have an 11. I'm just saying that the way in which they can build their squad after injuries is really different than some other teams in the league, and that's where I think you see the biggest disparity across the league. But yeah, I think Son kind of selects himself. He's been really good. He's probably going to be playing out on the left wing again. Richarlison's going to be back. At least we expect him to be back and be starting up top.
Yeah.
So that pushes Son out to the left. But it does feel that Spurs will have a lot of chances in this match, especially being that it's at home.
Mm-hmm.
Other players I would look at for a possible captaincy, I think Cole Palmer and Salah are really popular as well. Salah is someone that is low owned for Salah. He's around 25% at the moment. And if you captain him, he could go for a big haul. Brighton have been better defensively than they have a reputation that they've been conceding a lot. They really haven't been conceding that many chances. I think teams have been really clinical against them.
So that's something I want to bring up, Luke. I actually have these numbers in front of me from Fantasy Football Hub that over the last from 26 to 29, so the past 4 game weeks, Brighton have the second lowest XGC, so expected goals scored against them essentially.
You said that's from the last 4 game weeks?
4 game weeks. And the only team below them is Arsenal. So they're at 2.2. Arsenal's at 1.4. And to further prove your point about Luton, they have the highest expected goals conceded at 8.8.
Yeah.
So with even more injuries, it's going to be...
It does feel like
onslaught.
Son is in the script. I think he's going to have a high EO at the by the time the deadline closes at the end of the game week. But I don't know. It feels like Son is the right choice. But there's something in the back of my mind saying that there's a better one out there that could be a really big rank gain potential. Let's hear what Paul has to say.
I don't know.
Wait. Let me guess. Are you thinking about captaining Muniz away to Sheffield?
I think he's sneaky. I think that's a sneaky captaincy choice, but if I had a different player in my team, I think I may captain them this week. I don't have this person on my team that I want to that I would possibly want to captain.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
What you're alluding to there.
Do you want me to just tell you?
Let me look. You wouldn't be going for an Arsenal player. That would be crazy. Okay.
No.
Ollie Watkins?
No, thank you.
Would you do... No, not Eze. Okay, tell me. I'm not going to guess.
Cole Palmer versus Burnley.
Oh, yeah. That was one that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
I think Cole Palmer really is intriguing in that matchup in Burnley. What did they, 2 weeks ago, get a really big victory? Who'd they beat at home? They beat somebody at home.
I feel like that was so long ago now at this point.
Sound? That's interesting.
I was woofing.
Woof woof. But
I'll look it up real fast. Keep going.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think Cole Palmer is always, especially for the run in the end of the season, I think he's always going to be a sneaky little captaincy choice because we've seen any game week he can score 2-3 goals. He can score 2 goals, have 1 assist.
He's on pins.
He's on pens.
Chelsea do still have about 35 injuries they're dealing with as a squad.
Good thing they bought 1 million players in all the last 5 transfer windows. Which, by the way, Todd Bowley stepping down as chairman for Chelsea.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, apparently in 2028 he's going to step down.
Oh wow!
There's some provision within their contracts where he's going to step down and they're going to appoint a new person. So,
interesting.
At least that's the rumor. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I saw that reported from a couple really big sources.
If I were him, I'd probably do the same as well.
Yeah, it has not gone as planned.
No, that All-Star game that he first proposed did not stick for some reason. Weird. I don't know why that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like all of the American All-Star games are falling apart as well. So why not bring that over to England? It was such a great idea. Genius. Visionary.
Silliness.
It's sad to see him going in 2028.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, as somebody that is a hashtag Chelsea hater, I would love to see him stay there as long as he can. But anyways, I think Cole Palmer, if you look at Chelsea's run, they play Sheffield in 32, Everton in 33, and then they have the 2 doubles. I think he's probably going to be one of them. He's going to be a very heavily owned asset, especially once we get to 36 or 35 when they start to double.
I think so too. And I have already used one transfer. I'm not going to say who I brought in for
don't say it.
Mini league purposes.
Yep.
I will be looking to bring in a second player, most likely, maybe even a third.
Really, this window, this week?
Let's see, I have 2 free transfers.
That's true. I only
So
have
the
one.
-4 doesn't hurt as bad, in my opinion, because I think there's some really good players to target for at least 3 or 4 weeks, right? And that's kind of what my team is going to be building towards. Is I know I want to build my team up until 32. Because, like I said, maybe wildcard 33, maybe free hit 34. If I'm building my team in that vein to where I'm targeting players and can bring them in for 4 weeks that I think have really high points return potential, in my opinion, a -4 this week would be worth it.
Yeah.
And I think some players out there kind of scare me for what they could do to my overall rank just from their ownership. Players such as Haaland, right? I don't have Haaland in my team at the moment. If he gets a brace against Arsenal, that's really going to sting for my overall rank, but I don't foresee that happening, frankly. I think if City score...
Who knows?
If City score against Arsenal, I think it's going to be Foden, or I think it's going to be KDB.
I
Or
could see
something off a set piece.
I could see that's a match where Bernardo Silva may show up in a lot of interesting places.
Apparently, he might have been injured, though, in
really?
national duty.
I did not know that.
City picked up, I think, 6 or 7 different injuries over the international window, which is ridiculous. If I was City, I would not have released some of my players, frankly. I think it is inherently so stupid to be sending players off before this stretch run.
Well, I mean, so Luke, imagine that you are Man City and England's FA comes to you and says, we want John Stones, Kyle Walker, blah, 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 these players. They can't really say no in some regards. Like, I mean,
well, Arsenal did.
They can't. So they can.
Arsenal did.
I mean, Saka went.
Did Ben White go?
No, Ben White went because that's him personally not wanting to go. And
but yes, it's the same principle.
He used Arsenal as a middleman. They're the ones that told the FA that he wasn't going. But to me, I mean, that's a lot different for Saka. I mean, Saka went to the camp and he got injured and came back. Like,
well, he was already injured. He didn't pick it up there at the camp, I don't think.
Well, he went to the camp.
I think he'd been picking up the injury. My issue here isn't even with the clubs. It's with the idea of having the international break at this point in the season.
Yeah.
That's where the problem lies. And I think what should be changed, especially with the load and how many games these players have already played at this point in the season, why are they going to just play friendlies that mean nothing, right? Some clubs, Ukraine, Georgia, they had really important matches for the Euros in the summer coming up. So I get those, but friendlies like that, it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. Why do you need your players playing there with the possibility of getting injured? And a lot of them did. Man City is possibly, they could be really, really damaged going into that Arsenal matchup, and that's the biggest matchup of the season for them so far.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild the run that Man City have gone on, and that they have to play even Villa next week. But after that, it really clears up for them. So
it clears up, but their fixture congestion does not. They're playing.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing
3 games. They have 3 days rest for almost every single game for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
which with injuries already mounting up, that's going to really, really limit their
that is
effectiveness, I think.
But let me tell you real quick, Luke. If Arsenal put in a good performance against City on Sunday, I will be, and if we have key members that are already like continuously contributing, if any of them have a big match, it's going to be really hard for me not to use a triple captain in 31 against Luton at home.
31 at home, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's. I think it's really sneaky, but like, I don't know, the way that Arsenal have been playing, especially lower teams like Luton now, and if Luton's as decimated as they are right now.
Well, when they played Luton at Kenilworth Road, it was a completely 4-3.
It was, I mean, there were a lot of goals involved. I would not be triple captaining a defender. It would be an attacker. And I don't know. It's just something that would be really hard for me. But
Arsenal have 2 fixtures in 34 against really nice opposition.
I get it. I'm just saying, I mean, listen, they're playing Luton where they could score more goals in that one match than they do across 2 in 34.
The likelihood of that happening seems pretty slim, in my opinion. I see where you're coming from. I don't know if I agree with the thought process. Would I do it myself? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, more power to you if you go for that, because not very many managers will be doing that.
Yeah, we all play our own game, and I think the Havertz transfer for me was something where I was like, you know what, this is something I just want to do for the fun of the game. I believe in getting results from it, and it worked out for me. And now I'm like, fuck it, might as well play this game like where I get the most enjoyment.
You're already playing with house money with Havertz, in my opinion. He's been really good, and you were early on that transfer. I think where you could get in trouble is by doubling down on that, because you've already made your money off of that.
I mean, it's been great, but I mean, also, meh. We played the game at our own discretion,
This is chaotic. That's what that is.
This is not neutral chaotic.
It is chaotic. Okay, with that in mind, I think that we've kind of gone over potential captaincy options, maybe even some teams to target through talking about those captaincy choices there. One thing that we haven't mentioned is that there's a new FPL game mode out called FPL Challenge. This is something that is brand new that I think some of the top content creators were kind of working on behind the scenes to help FPL Towers develop the game and make something exciting. So what they've done is they've put together a new game mode where you get to draft a team for the week. And your score does not roll over to the next week. You're just trying to maximize the points for that one single week. And the fun thing about it as well is that each week there are going to be different bonuses added in. So this week you have an unlimited budget where you can pick your players, and you can sub players in and out depending on when they play, the deadlines. So they're rolling deadlines, which is kind of nice. It's something a little different as opposed to the regular FPL game mode that we play now. And on top of that, like I said, I think 32, you get double points for players playing in the when Liverpool and Manchester United play each other in their derby.
Yeah.
So, something interesting. I think it's a good idea for them to bring that in. Hopefully it continues to drive engagement, because sometimes FPL does become somewhat of a drudge, especially if you're on a string of 4 or 5 red arrows and you just don't know what to do. I think this helps, right? It allows an outlet where you can go for things in 1 week.
It's something different.
And really kind of experiment. I think that's kind of the cool thing about this mode, is that you have a lot of freedom what you can do. And following a template's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have one game week, you got to be differential, and hopefully you roll the dice and get it right.
Yeah, I think it is exciting that we have another little offshoot of FPL where, honestly, if you wanted to, you could kind of use this to workshop ideas for your actual FPL team,
You can.
Like, in some regards, I mean, it's like if you want to be really, really early on a player that's you think's turning a corner, or their team's turning a corner, you could do this 1 week and then kind of see what they do, and then go bring them into your FPL team the next week,
I also think that it's interesting in the way that if you're someone who loves to play very differential and really go for it week in, week out with your regular FPL team, maybe now you can curb that a little bit, because you have something else you're competing for where you can be that very aggressive, go for it, not planning for the future game weeks. And some of that will kind of help level out some of your regular FPL game, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fun game mode. It's I'm sure we'll see more development as time goes on, but for now I think it's a good first step in kind of offshooting FPL into different realms that, like you said, bring more people into the idea of playing FPL. So
yeah, so kudos to FPL Towers there. I think this is a good addition to the overall FPL game community. But with that, I think we'll probably get out of here for the day. Hopefully you guys learned some new things about FPL today. And hopefully overall what this podcast did was help you kind of clarify your decision-making process. So, Paul, do you have any final thoughts for the listeners out there?
Plan. I'd say really just prepare for the final run-in, depending on how much risk you want to take with it. Because, I mean, I know some people probably maybe just want to stay where they're at and they just want to have a steady run of the season. So that's a possibility. Or you can also take a lot of risks going forward too, especially depending on how many chips you have. So just plan all that out and decide how you want to play the game, and play your own game too.
As Paul says, He'll be triple captaining in game week 31. Play your own game.
It's possible.
Play your own game, everyone.
Yeah.
And Paul's right. We're doing this so that we have fun, so that we enjoy watching the Premier League a little bit extra. So, as always, take it with a grain of salt. Just have fun with it. And thank you for joining us for this episode. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And we'll be back with you all for another episode sometime soon, probably next week.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.